It's loading, so give it 1 second.
Yeah, that's I figure we'll start it right now. So.
Okay.
Okay. Today is December 8th, 2020. We're at the town board work session. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Madam Clerk, could I have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Christine Adamczak. Councilmember Linda Hammer.
Here.
Councilmember Gerald Kaminsky.
Present.
Councilmember Brian Nowak.
Present.
Councilmember Brian Pilarski.
Present.
Councilmember Richard Rusiniak. He's actually logging in
Connecting.
right now. Yep.
Okay.
Councilmember Richard Rusiniak, we're taking attendance.
Hello. I hear.
And Supervisor, okay, and Supervisor Diane Menchkowski.
Okay, I'm here. We're all in attendance. I'd like to make a motion to go into executive session to discuss the employment history of a particular person and attorney-client privilege. I'll make the motion, and the second, Councilmember Hammer. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried, and we'll go into executive session and return. It'll probably be at least a half hour to 45 minutes. So we're going to just keep the meeting running.
Okay.
Madam Clerk, are you there?
I am here.
Okay, I'd like to out of executive session where no action was taken.
Second that.
Okay, well, Barry Pilarski's first. Can I have a second?
Rick.
Member Hammer, all in favor to come out of executive
Aye.
session? What time is it? 6:03. Motion carried. Okay, excuse me. Next item of discussion is Mark Crystal and Highway Superintendent Mark Wagner regarding our future capital projects for 2021. Here you are, Mark Crystal, and are you there? You have to unmute yourself.
I am, Diane, yes.
Okay, and you were going to share your screen, or does Kim first have the information that you wanted up?
Mark, if there's
She does,
something
Diane,
that
yes,
you-
yeah.
All
Yeah,
right,
if there's
good.
something in particular, do you want to just let me know what it is, or am I showing each one individually?
Well, whatever you want to do, Diane, because again, I sent that package out to the board last Friday. I think everyone received it. This pictures speak for themselves. If there's something we want to talk about in detail, we can throw the picture up. If not, everyone got that in their email attachment last Friday.
Yeah, it was pretty impressive how much you've gotten done this year, especially like the Delavan Pump Station area and all the drainage projects. So good job.
Exactly, Diane. I know sometimes it's nice to get a visual element of what's going on out there. So that's why I don't want to throw too much information in there, but kind of wanted to touch on a few topics that we did get started this year, you know?
Mm-hmm. Okay, good. And then for next year, well, actually, we were lucky enough last year to get some extra community block grant funds to help with the Delavan repaving and road reconstruction. So, and we never know if we're going to get it and when. So right now, this forecast that you've given us does not include any, but we're looking for some from Rachel, and she understands that there might be some available if we have to.
Correct, Diane. Yeah, I spoke with both Dale and Rachel at our community development office, and we do have an application in for some assistance on Alcott. So that's already on their radar, and they're looking for funding on that. And actually spoke to Dale today, and there might be an opportunity to do some additional funding on Andrews to help do some restoration once we get done with the sanitary improvements and drainage improvements next year. So I have an open dialogue with them, and we communicate, you know, as we move forward on that. So we're going to get some assistance from them, hopefully, you know, some more as we move forward.
Do you want to talk about the Vern Lane neighborhood and the water authority? How great we're going to do half and half? I think that's just a wonderful idea.
Sure, Diane. Yeah, every year, you know, the water authority usually lets out 3 or 4 projects that encompass Cheektowaga streets. And this application next year, there's going to be 3 separate projects that are going to encompass Cheektowaga streets. The largest of which is in Vern Lane neighborhood. There's going to do Vern Lane, Joanne, Dennis, and Linden off of William Street. So that's a large project for them. And we've had discussions with them over the last couple of years about how they restore their projects when they do them on our streets. Years ago, we were able to do a mill and overlay with them. And then the water authority, through their management, got in a different direction. We're able to bring that back now, or at least they're putting in their bid specs to mill and fill half of the streets that they are working on. So at least that's halfway there. So that's why, while they're there as a betterment to what they're trying to accomplish, we know we have some drainage issues in the neighborhood. It would make sense to kind of conjointly work on them. They do their part, we do our part, and then we can work together as far as milling, resurfacing the road once those projects are complete. So that's an open dialogue I have with them. They have at least decided to move forward in 2020 and hopefully beyond and language their contract. So it's a win for us. It's a win for our taxpayers. So at least we can get half that cost covered through their project.
I like that. Yes, that's great. As long as they're there, might as well do this. And then the Andrews
Correct,
is
yes.
part of the continuation of the Delavan Pump Station diversion to Alpine, correct?
Exactly, Diane. Yeah, just like other streets, unfortunately, there's some drainage issues on those streets. Obviously, the sewer costs, the sanitary costs are much larger because we're going to be down 19 feet installing that sanitary bypass. But obviously, once we're there, as we work our way up in elevation, we should consider replacing the storm. So once again, through hopefully community development, we can get some funds to restore the pavement, restore the curbing once we're done, and get everything done on that street. So once we're off that street, we're off that street for hopefully 25, 30 years to come. You know, so we know we have some issues in there. So, you know, in my opinion, we should address all while we're there and then walk away from the streets in good shape for decades to come.
I agree. I mean, we've noticed, and Mark Crystal would know because he's working both with the highway department and the sewer department. And because of the DEC consent order and all the lining we're doing and the disconnecting from the sanitary sewers, there's no place for this rainwater and stormwater to go in heavy rain events. So now people are getting flooding. So with these drainage projects, that helps address that issue then. Okay, so then do you want to just continue on with?
Yeah, that's correct, Diana.
Go ahead. There must be some hesitation.
Yeah, that's fine, Dan. Yeah, no, that's fine, Dan. Yeah, no, I just wanted to just, again, touch on that. You know, the perfect example of that is, you know, obviously we did a major project in the Towers neighborhood the last 2 years. We started in 19, we finished that this year in 2020. And that was a major improvement for us. But again, it was a big benefactor for our residents over that neighborhood. Now there's connection points for sump pumps, downspouts, everything they bring out to the street. Unfortunately, a lot of these neighborhoods don't have any outlet for our residents. When they do invest in under drain, sump pumps, you name it, to get the water out, there's not a connection point for them. So that's a good example of that. And moving forward, especially in our sanitary sewer districts, which is, again, the Elcott neighborhood is one of them. To have this outlet point is critical as we move forward on our DEC consent order. So even though they're separate animals, sanitary, storm, I mean, these do kind of go hand in hand. You need good functioning storm sewers on your streets to allow for the runoff and the infiltration to be accounted for on the sanitary side. So that's why whenever we do these major projects, we try to make sure we address both at the same time. Unfortunately, it's two different funding animals for us. We have our sanitary districts, we have our highway, consolidated district as well. But again, in my opinion, both of these do go hand in hand. I just wanted to bring that point out.
Okay, good. Thank you. Do you want to just touch base real quick about this is kind of seemed to be like just another step in the Towers area to go down to Sprucewood, Cheekwood, Birchwood, and Mayberry, Fradine?
Yeah, exactly, Diane. You know, once again, you guys received the photos. The photos speak for themselves. This is stuff that we inherited. The typical life expectancy of a corrugated metal storm sewer is about 40 years. Some of this piping's been in the ground 60 plus years. So this really, it shouldn't be a surprise to anybody when you look at the lifeline of the pipe. The good thing is the new technologies and new materials we do put in the ground. There's PVC piping and the gaskets and stuff of that nature. They have a 75-year life on them. So it's a much longer timeline. But unfortunately, because of the nature of our town and the age of our town, a lot of these subdivisions were built in that window, late 70s in that area. So now we're in that window where a lot of this pipe is coming to age at the same time. But once again, we focus on the Towers area first. We were able to complete that as scheduled in the 2-year phase, 19 and 20. Now the next direction in the area is what I call the woods neighborhood. You got Sprucewood, Birchwood, Cheekwood, all the woods on that side of Ward, Hillwood, Penwood. It's the same scenario. Those streets are built like a valley. They're V-shaped. And all the water gets funneled down to the V. Well, in that V is 60-year-old corrugated metal pipe that actually runs side yard to side yard. So again, it's functional, it's serviceable, but again, long-term, it needs to be addressed before we have any more major issues out there. So that's why on that packet, you see, additional dollars for what I'm going to call another phase of that project in the woods neighborhood. So that's something we need to address. Same thing off of French Road is the Mayberry. You got Mayberry East, Mayberry West, and Fradine. It's kind of a unique 3-street little subdivision. Again, built in that same time frame. All the water is actually forced to go uphill instead of downhill, as silly as it sounds. Naturally, it wants to run towards Slate Bottom Creek, if you're familiar with the area. Well, the water's pitched and drained up the French Road, so it has to do a big U-turn to get back where it goes. So that wasn't really built correctly to begin with, but more importantly, once again, the metal was of that age that needs to be addressed. So that's another area that we'd like to address next year as well. And then, you know, in conjunction with what we're trying to accomplish on the city line neighborhood over in Andrews and Alcott. I mean, it's an aggressive schedule, but once again, it's doable. I just want to fall back. If you looked at this part of the email, I give a quick snapshot of the last 8 years, just so you guys get a snapshot that, yeah, we, you know, unfortunately, there's a lot of dollars there, but this has always been a bonded type infrastructure improvements we do. You know, Brian can speak to that, but what I mean by that is that's what bonding is basically set up for, long-term infrastructure investment. Okay, because unfortunately, these are large dollars and we can't offset that in our general every year budget with our highway department. So these are large dollars, but as you can see, it's something we've always done. It's nothing new. Okay, so I just wanted to bring that to light in the beginning of the email, just so we don't look at this and say, hey, no, this is something we've always done. It's a good program we've had. We've been doing it as long as I've been here. And again, you know, Brian builds that debt service right into our budget, so we're, you know, allows us to focus on these projects. So again, it's an aggressive schedule, but there's a lot there.
Mhm.
Hi, Mark. Brian Nowak here. Relative to the bonding, I'm glad you brought that up. In the email, you mentioned that it was getting done in March of each year. I'm familiar with the bonding resolutions that go through around that time. If those bonding resolutions went through earlier, like you were saying, let's say the end of January, would the money be secured and give you a chance to start earlier in the year like you're intending? Would the end of January be enough time? Do you feel you need even more than that?
Actually, Brian, yeah, that's a great point, and that's kind of the reason we're having this conversation now. As you know, the bonding takes about 2 months from start to finish. So the second we do a bond resolution at town board meeting, it's about 2 months time frame until we actually have monies available. Okay, so in that same window, I also have to write contracts, to find a scope of work and get everything in place for that. So yeah, I'd like to see us start doing this at the beginning of January, right after the holidays are done, versus waiting till March, because then we're looking at May realistically before we have dollars in place. I mean, again, if the weather permits, we can start these projects, you know, March 15th, somewhere around there, depending on Mother Nature. But yeah, that 2 months is a big window for us to get started. So I'd like to back that window up and do exactly what you mentioned. I'd like to get these bonds out and these contracts out in January, you know, no later than the end of January.
Gotcha. And you feel the weather has been such in the last couple of years that if we did it earlier, you'd be able to get started earlier?
Absolutely, Brian. Yes. There's a lot of work we can do, start a time before we even get to the restoration point when weather's on our side as far as blacktop and things of that nature goes. But yeah, if we can start getting shovels in the ground March 15th, that would be a good window for us. Yes.
Thanks.
Anybody else have any questions? Anybody opposed to this project or the projection for 2021 that Mark Crystal has put together, the 3.4 million for the infrastructure work between drainage and paving? So that we can move forward and get resolutions in for in the next, well, probably next month in January. At least Mark can start working on putting the bid specs together. Brian Kraus can start working on the bonding, and we can get going on this.
Yeah, I was going to say, Supervisor, from my review of the 2021 projects, it looks like a good bulk of those are in conjunction with the Water Authority and some of these other things. So I have no opposition to it because it's a good bang for our buck.
Thank you, council member. Yeah. Anybody else?
Well, actually, Diane, going through this and talking to a lot of people across the country, is that enough money to begin with? Because probably a year from now, just the cost of lubricants, fuel, gasoline, you name it, is probably going to be double what it is today. Would there be any cost savings looking at doing a little bit more, Mark?
Well, I don't think we have the manpower.
Well, Jerry, That's, well, it's the logistics of that. Yeah, Diane. Yeah, Jerry, I mean, it's an aggressive schedule. I'm comfortable with completing what we have here as designed on paper. You know as well as I do. I mean, our Mother Nature window here is limited to about 9 months in a good year. So again, if we can
Right.
hit the ground running, I'm confident we can get done on this list. The one thing, to your point, though, we can look at doing is bonded money is there. What I mean by that, if we wanted to increase this bond, and if I could get to, let's say, for example, when I added some 2022 projects on this list, if
Right.
you wanted to include some of that bonding now, if time permits, let's say August, and I can sneak one of them in, great, we're ahead of the game. Again, I'll defer to Brian on that, but again, you know, this bond is going to be set for a 10 or 15-year window. So it's not like we bond it now, we have to spend it now. If we bond it now and I can sneak an additional project in the fall,
Right.
you know, so be it, if that makes sense, you know.
Well, and I think that's what I'm concerned about. Costs are not gonna go down, Mark. Any of it. I don't care. Diesel
No,
fuel,
I
supplies, any.
agree with you there.
I would be
Right.
open to putting in additional funds in the event we can do a project in 22. I know one of them is the Clinton Street project, and we have to wait on the state for that one, right? Can work with them on that. So we couldn't do that one early, but still, there are some other things we could do early.
Well, don't forget, see, what happens is sometimes money is freed up. Like this year, we got more money actually from CDBG for this Straley project. So that freed up some additional money, and also money for the Delavan Road reconstruction. So what we're hoping is the Vern Lane area is in a low to mod income area. So there might be some funds freed up for that. And also the Andrews Alcott area. So there might not be any reason to do more bonding this year, because we're hoping that, and I mean, historically, those funds come available.
Right, and if we bond for it, that doesn't mean we have to spend all the money, right? That we can
It doesn't, and we shouldn't, because what happens, everybody knows we've gotten blasted about the leaf pickup because these contractors use our MEO operators. So these projects, even though CMH does some of it, we do it too. So our workers are tied up with the capital projects instead of, these have to all be done by the beginning of October. So we can get to leaf pickup and not have them all tied up on these capital projects. So that's why I don't want to overextend ourselves. So keep that in mind, just so you know why I'm a little hesitant. I think we're fine, and Mark always, Crystal always manages those dollars. So if he has time, he will do more. And there might, I don't know, Brian Krause, is there any balance in any of our funds that if we could do more, we could have it there?
Generally, you know, Mark's pretty good at spending most of the money that we map out. So, I mean, on occasion there may be some excess, but and that's why we don't necessarily when we bond with generic wording that we're doing drainage on town highways, not the specific town highways, because if you said, oh, we're going to do it on Olcott and only Olcott, you couldn't take that money and move it over to Vern Lane if you had excess or something like that. So, you know, I mean, it's not an exact science, but Mark's pretty tight at getting pretty good estimates. And, you know, I mean, sometimes there's some excess, sometimes there's not. It's not exact.
And that's why we have such a good bond rating too, is the way we do bond, thanks to Brian Krause knows, you know, you don't want to overextend yourself too in a year. And, you know, between the CDBG funds that might be coming in, we also get funds from some of our legislators like Senator Kennedy. There's $1 million sitting there for us. So I'm hoping that we get that in 2021. So,
I mean, this bonding is a balancing act, you know, I mean, it's basically, hey, you know, we when we do a certain number, we know we have to add debt service. Sometimes the debt service from older bonds fall off. We're done making the payments after 15 years generally. right now we don't have a ton of that where in the near future, the next 3-4 years that we have stuff falling off. So, we're adding new layers. They're not huge, but they are an additional layer of debt service that will be added to the budget. Certainly necessary, as Mark has shown you pictures of all these things that, this stuff is beyond its useful life in most instances. So, again, balancing act, and that's why, Jerry, you're saying, oh, maybe we should add more, then that just adds more to the debt service in future. So, I'd be a little hesitant on it. I understand your concern. I think that as Mark has shown, how we've done historically for the last, 7-8 years, we're between the $3 and $4 million range. And that's a pretty good balance, I think. So I'd be comfortable just kind of sticking with the plan that Mark's presented right now.
Anybody else have any questions? Okay, thanks, Mark, for the great presentation, and happy holidays, and hopefully you can take some vacation, because I know you're out there all day long, all summer with these contractors, so.
Well, same to you guys as well. And appreciate your efforts this year. And then hopefully next year will be a good one as well. Thank you.
I hope so. Thank you.
Hey, Mark, thanks.
Yeah,
Take
Mark.
it easy, Mark.
Okay, let's go through the town board resolutions that were submitted. We do not have any public hearings tonight. And we do have resolution 2020-446 and 2020-459 from the table from the last meeting. Is there any questions on those? And on the consent agenda, we have the warrant. Resolution 2020-463, the Cheektowaga Youth Board appointments.
I'm going to pull that one with the other council members.
Okay.
Right.
Madam Clerk, can you pull 2020-463 for now? And then we'll revisit
do.
that.
Yep.
Then we have the annual data backup and disaster recovery license renewal. That's through our IT director. If you have any questions, I think Lisa Bolognese is on the meeting. Okay. The next one's also IT, the annual renewal of security camera license. And resolution 5, the town hall fiber network services recabling project. She's been very, very busy, as you can see.
Yeah, she's really burning the midnight oil.
She does. I know, and all this is so important to our communication system. Okay, resolution 6, Karen Marchese.
Yes. Resolution 6 is the appointment of a motor equipment operator, non-competitive permanent, and sewer maintenance, Justin Borowski. And if you have any questions about that, that's why I'm here. And the next resolution is the authorization of a student intern in the police department, Taylor Gorlick, a student at Endicott College. And her internship starts December 10th through January 30th. So it's good that in this time, students are still able to get internships with us. So that's all I have tonight.
Okay, and then resolution 8, I believe Jill Gorman had asked us to pull it because of
Correct.
all her people who have been quarantined or in quarantine right now. So the special event, unfortunately, we've tried several times to put something together, but it's just not happening. So we're going to have to pull resolution 2020-469, Madam Clerk.
I have it.
Okay, then we have, I believe, 4 items under the suspension of rules. The first one is another IT resolution for the building access control solution.
Yeah, I did have a question on this one. If Lisa can explain in a little more detail exactly what this is and what it entails.
So this is, we'll be working with our current vendor for our camera network, Buffalo Fire Security on this. It's going to be a very simple building access system. Typically, the best way for me to describe it is the type of system that you would see at an apartment building, where you would be able to go choose the department that you want to visit, press a button, a doorbell. It would provide intercom access and video access. The video would be clear enough to be able to ask for driver's licenses or whatever you might need for entry into the building. It would keep all the doors locked for the public or anyone outside of the employee group. So the employees would still enter and exit the building the way they are now, but the building access controls under the CARES Act would allow us to keep the buildings secure and monitor the people that are coming in through this system that acts as a building access control panel. And then there would be a door release in each department to be able to allow that person that they're expecting in. You can turn the system off when you have large groups of people coming in, like during tax time, or if you have a big program going on at the Youth and Rec Department. But other than that, for the most part, you will be able to control it per each department.
Okay, and so the example of tax time answers my other question, is if this includes the town hall, and are there any major buildings that are excluded in this? I'm assuming the town hall, Alexander Center, the highway department, your building in Maryvale Drive, and others. Are there any that are not being included in this?
No, so what we'll do is with the CARES Act funding, we'll grab the buildings that we have on our priority list. Initially, when we applied for the CARES Act funding, it was the senior center, the youth and rec department, and some of the pools. But I changed the scope of the CARES Act application. I'm going to back away from the pools at this point, and we'll do our major buildings first and see how far we can get with that. And of course, I'll do one building first to make sure that this type of system is going to work.
And last question, I promise. If we want to disable this system for any particular building, we're able to do that, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Anybody else have any questions?
Now, will this eventually replace the security guard at Town Hall, or are we gonna have both in place?
Well, we're hoping it does, except for tax season. So right now it's under, the security company's covered under the CARES Act. It's just, we had 500 residents in one day at tax season, and there's no way this building access system would work that way. So we have to figure that out. I think we need to look at that, what we want to do for the future. And hopefully I was thinking maybe we could keep that security company just for 2 more months, January, February, and then hopefully by the next tax season in October, we'd be through this pandemic.
So actually, I was gonna ask, what is our plan for the security monitor, security guard, for January, because CARES Act money expires December 30th. Where's that pot of money coming from then for the security?
Well, it's only it's 3,000. I don't have the exact number. I did have a file here somewhere. I don't remember the exact amount per month. So if we paid for 2 months of that, I don't know where Brian Kraus had the original funds coming from.
So it's safe to just assume that this will be a topic next meeting, that we'll have to figure out where and what to do with it.
Right. Well, we have a 2-year contract, so we can cancel it at any time. Brian Kraus, where did we take that security funding from? It's not, I mean, for the building monitor at Town Hall.
Right, well, I mean, it is a new expense that we did not have budgeted. We would have had to have taken it from, a contingency account or a fund balance potentially, or allocated from other budget lines that we did not spend. So, that's likely what would have to happen going into 2021. 'Cause I don't believe we budgeted for that either.
Okay, so I think it wasn't any more. than $3,000, and maybe that's even overestimating how much it was per month. I just don't have that information here right with me right now. I can look for it though while we're talking.
I'm trying to look for it right now.
No, that's fine. If we could just discuss this next meeting on this issue of where that funding is coming from or what our plan is for that, to see where it's coming from, because obviously we didn't budget for it. It's an expense that's not there. Revenues are going to be down in areas. So I'd like to talk about this more next meeting.
Okay.
Thanks.
Do you by any chance, Vern Kraus, know how much it is monthly?
I'm trying to see right now. I know that we have some of these payments currently being paid on this. So it looks like we pay, it's about, I'm looking at one invoice here. It looks like they've invoiced us for 2 weeks at a time, and it's about $2,000. So it's about $1,000 a week.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so it's closer to $4,000 a month then. You're saying.
Yes. Yes.
Okay. Yeah, so we just have to figure out what we're gonna do in February with tax season, because if we didn't have them for October, that would have been a real big issue. So I'm open to whatever you guys want to do. So I'll just have to make a note to put that on the work session. I'm just doing it right now because otherwise I'll forget, so.
Lisa, do we have a timeline for this project? Once it's approved, how long they'll be able to do, get it done?
I don't have a timeline prepared yet, but I can certainly, I did reach out to some of the department heads to discuss with them, how this is going to roll out. So once I can figure out the plan, I'll probably start at Alexander. I'll work over there first. We'll see how it pans out there, and they have several departments. So, and they also have a rear entry that I'm going to have to work with. So once I get that all figured out, I will be sure I can send you all an update, and I'll make sure that the department heads know, when it's going to be rolling out and what's going on.
Cool. And will
I'm
it be
expecting the next couple of weeks.
right. Will it be like a key fob system?
No.
Like if the elected officials come in, or so how do we get buzzed in?
It's not going to be, well, you can obviously get buzzed in through the doorbell, but it's the key system, the system of your keys is going to remain the same.
Okay.
That's not changing. So initially the scope of the project did include that, but then it became so big and it became something a lot larger than I think we were looking to do. Right now, this is just going to control the entry in and out of the building. But all of the rest of the security will stay the same. So it'll still be key entry.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thanks, Lisa. Okay, resolution 2 under the waiver items is the purchase of the aerial lift truck for sign maintenance. And I sent all of you the actual vehicle or equipment information request form. Did anybody, everybody got it, I hope, and do you have any questions on it?
Yeah, what's one thing I would love to see on those, Diane? The penmanship is horrible. You almost need a translator to read some of them. It would be very,
maybe
very
I
nice
can
if
help
they
you.
would complete it.
Yeah.
I didn't catch that, Diane.
You want me, yeah, I had to look at it closely myself. Department.
Yeah, it was
sign
hard to read.
Mark Wagner, Make Ford, Mantel, he put, I think there was the actual, truck is on the resolution. Purchase price is $72,500. I'm in poor shape. Jerry, did you happen to go out there? You and Rick?
No, actually, Rick and I were out there today again and could not find the truck anyplace.
Kevin Gonzik knew where it was.
Don't know. We checked the sign shop. But either way, we're still gonna.
All right, Mark Wagner's on. Mark Wagner, where was the truck today? Mark?
Could have been on a job too.
Yeah, well, I mean, we probably should have planned for that rather than going at the last minute. Mark Wagner, can you hear us? We can't hear you. I see your phone on the screen.
He's on mute, Diane. He's got to take himself off of mute. Or Kim can,
Yeah,
I can't unmute him. I asked him to unmute himself. It should prompt him to.
does he know, where would it be on a phone? Is it on the bottom like we have, or where is the?
Unmuted.
Lower left.
He should be good now. He should
Okay,
be good.
Mark, are you there?
It's star six, Diane, if he's just
Oh,
talking.
all right. Mark, press star 6. I think Chris has him on the phone. Chris, tell him to press star 6.
no, I don't have him on the phone.
Oh,
I can call him. Hold on.
all right, because yeah, last time he had to talk through you. I don't understand. Lisa will have to get Mark up to date on the Zoom meetings.
Okay, can everybody hear Mark or
Mark,
Mark?
can you,
I can hear everybody else and I have it unmuted.
huh? All right, well, we'll have to work with you on that. We'll have to do a demo or a sample meeting. So anyway, Jerry said that they went there today and there was no sign or aerial truck, lift truck. What time did you go, Jerry?
What time was it, Rick?
1
o'clock?
Between, yeah, 12 to 1,
Yeah.
somewhere in there.
What time were you there?
They were there between 12 and 1, Mark. Rick and
Okay.
Jerry were there and they said the truck was not there.
Okay, we've been waiting for 2 weeks for them to show up and the truck, they're cleaning all the garages. So they put that in the garage that already been cleaned. So we can get these garages cleaned up for the winter. We've been waiting for 2 weeks for them.
Yeah, why did you not call ahead of time and wait till the last day?
Well, I hate to say it, but I have a job to do, and so does Rick Rusniak. And it was just a matter of us getting together to get over there with the combination of rotten weather and everything else. I just can't shut my place down. And Rick
Okay.
is in the same situation.
I guess I'm.
Now, I don't know where this comes from, that anybody was waiting for us for 2 weeks. I don't believe I've talked to anybody in highway. Well, I don't know if Rick has.
He said
Well,
he-
you mentioned it at the town board meeting we had 2 weeks ago. That's probably what he's saying.
Wait a minute, hold on. Go ahead, Mark.
I talked to Kevin Godziak and he told me that he's waiting for Rick and Jerry to show up. He's been waiting for 2 weeks and nobody has shown up. And that was yesterday and today.
So can Mark give us detail on this truck? Like what are the main issues of it? Is it just the bottom rotting out? Is the lift not going up? Is it cosmetic? Like, can you give us some detail and explain a little bit what's up with this truck?
The bottom is rotten out, the floorboard. The lift itself is, as you are up in the air, you will turn around and it will either drop or raise you. It's a safety issue. The thing is old. We'll probably get some money for it, but it's not feasible.
So its main function of the lift is really defective and it's a safety hazard and that's the need for a new one, is from what I'm getting, right? Okay.
Correct.
You know, I talked to Kevin on it and he told me it wasn't in bad shape. So there's some wires crossed here somewhere, because he's telling me we can fix the bottom of the boxes, you can put it back together. It sounded like it was very simple. So
Rick, that's not what he told me yesterday, and I
no,
talked to him. So
that's
there,
what
I
he
guess
told
there-
me when I stopped to see him after the auction stuff. You know, I sat there for an hour talking with him.
So did you see the truck?
No, Kevin was describing it to me.
But you went over there. Why didn't you ask him to see it?
This was before the meeting, last meeting.
Oh,
This was
okay.
before the last meeting. We were addressing things, talking about different trucks, garbage. We were talking about garbage trucks. We were talking about all kinds of stuff. So There's some wires crossed here somewhere.
Okay. Okay, anybody else have any questions? While Mark Wagner's on the phone?
Well, curious question, Mark. How does this thing wound up in that bad a shape? I mean, doesn't anybody write these things up? There must be some kind of a write-up, you know, and I would hope that we're following before they even take the trucks out and bring them back at night. If there's anything wrong, it should be designated, you know, a paper trail. And the biggest one I'm still confused about, you oversee the sign shop, correct?
Yes, they do.
Why does Central Garage still do the maintenance on it?
That's in their budget.
But it's under highway, correct?
We've talked about this. Brian Kraus, can you explain this to Jerry? He didn't understand it last time, that the central,
Brian,
or the
Diane,
sign maintenance
sure,
is
I'm
out of
understanding.
the
It makes no
general
sense.
fund.
So there is no responsibility for those vehicles.
There is, but you're talking about two different things. The maintenance of it is Kevin Godzik's, because he gets reimbursed because it comes from the general fund.
I understand that, but the point I'm trying to make, Mark oversees that department, so I would assume if there's issues with the vehicle, they should be letting their boss know. You
But
know,
you're saying
when
you
you put a
mentioned Kevin
middleman,
Godzik
in
taking
everything,
care of
it's
it.
going to get lost. Just doesn't make any sense. And I still find it hard to believe a vehicle with only 64,000 miles, the floors are rotted out of it. That's almost obscene.
It's
If
13
there's
years
any
old.
issue with the hydraulics, somebody definitely should have reported it, or have they or haven't they? Mark,
Yeah.
what have you got for reports on it?
Tabor takes it to Kevin. Kevin also has a ton of police vehicles that he has to work on.
Absolutely.
You know, I mean, I can't just take it to the highway and give it to one of our mechanics. Can't do it. It's always, you know, it's funny. It's always the highway equipment that we have to go through this.
No, department has nothing to do with it. It's just a matter.
It's for me on everything. It's always the highway. So go ahead, keep talking all you want. If you don't want it, I don't really care. If somebody gets hurt, you explain it.
So let me just have Brian Kraus just chime in real quick. Can you just explain to the board again how that funding works? Because sign maintenance comes out of the general fund. And don't we
Right.
reimburse Kevin Godzik then somehow from that fund?
Well, I mean, when it comes down to, you know, the general fund code, they have a specific department number for sign maintenance, traffic maintenance. It's in this 3000 code, which is where police is as well. I mean, police, dog control, and traffic sign maintenance. So, you know, police used to oversee it. It's still budgeted in the general fund in this 3510 code, or it's 3320, so one of those two codes. As well as, you know, I mean, when it comes down to it, Kevin Godzik's, he oversees, you know, most of the general fund. He oversees basically every vehicle that isn't a highway vehicle. So, you know, he has budgets within his department that he tracks spending on each of these various types of vehicles, police, things along those lines, you know, sewer, those types of things do get charged back to the various other funds as well, if he does work on sewer and sanitation stuff. So, so when it comes down to it, you know, I mean, I do understand Mark Wagner is the supervisor of the department, but the budget money comes out of the general fund and that specific department.
I mean, my biggest issue was we're all talking about trying to not spend money this year because of the COVID. We didn't have money. We didn't have sales tax money coming in. But we were looking at projects. Hey, do we really need this truck? It's not that old. Is it something we can fix? it isn't because, we're, who it is, what it is, where it is. We were just looking for places to save money. And this was one of them. If it's a must, it's a must, but we're just trying to, do our job and not spend what we don't have. We get all these surprises come up, and here we got to have money for it. And this was one of them. Now, what do we do?
Well, this one, don't forget, Brian Kraus recommended we take it out of the 2020 budget. That's why it's on now and not waiting till next year. It was not in the 2021 budget.
I mean, is this a truck that we can keep and use in another department where it would help somebody else?
Well, it sounds like it's a need because it's unsafe. So I wouldn't even want to use it in another department.
Well,
I need to replace it for safety reasons. So I would support getting a new one if the safety is the reasoning of it. My concern was is it a need or a want, but it sounds like it's a need if the bucket truck lift is just dropping or spinning. So I wouldn't even want to use it for another department or another task if safety is the issue, and then liability comes in with us knowing that it's unsafe, and then there's negligence on our behalf.
Yeah. When I talked to Kevin, it wasn't unsafe. It was just rotted out in the bottom of the boxes.
Well, that doesn't sound good, rotted out.
No, the bottom of the work boxes. You open the toolbox up, you put a new panel in the bottom of it. I mean, it's not a major issue, but
And I agree.
I'm not handicapped, but it's really tough for me to get around right now. I've been trying to pick some days to get down there. And actually, I've been around a few more times, and I've been looking around, and I probably should have stopped and talked to somebody, but I don't see it out sitting. It's not where I'm going to climb through buildings to go find it. This walker's a little slow.
Yeah, and Rick, I'm only saying as you volunteered to take a look at it. I didn't you had to.
Right. Well, I want to. I mean, I understand the whole deal on it, So just looking at it's the big thing. Is this something we have to do tonight?
But
to
Rick,
get
you
this
were there today. Why didn't you call me and I would have showed it to you? I would have been happy to show it to you so you could see it.
I was probably wrong there. I probably should have called you, Mark.
I'm there. You could have
Yep.
called.
All right. Well, tell you what, I'll try to get in there tomorrow. I mean, is this something we can get through this year so we can at least take a look at it by the next meeting?
It's supposed to come out of the 2020 budget. That's the
Right.
problem.
We do have one more meeting in 2020 on the 29th, and we would be able to take money out of the 2020 budget at that
Yeah,
time.
but you wouldn't be able to have enough time to actually pay that out of this year.
No,
Because
but accounting wise, it's fine. You can,
Is it?
you can create even just the purchase order to have it come out of 2020.
And I got a question for you, Brian. Theoretically speaking, let's say, this item did for some reason make it into 2021 and we still had the funds in the 2020 budget line. We can spend it out of the 2020 budget line, correct?
I mean, it needs to be ordered in 2020 in order to spend it out of 2020. That's
So we
all.
do have to order it this year. Okay.
and we'll only have one day, and that's on December 3rd. Well, 2 days. Well, the 3rd, yeah. So
We have the one more meeting on the 29th.
yes.
How
So
about if we look at purchasing it?
Mhm.
I'll take a quick look. I
So-
say, yes, it's good. It's safe, or it's unsafe.
So Brian,
It's up to you guys.
we just need the purchase order for it. We don't need to physically pay for it or order it at that moment. Because my concern is if we wait till the 28th, we're in red zone now, wherever we're ordering it from, maybe they're in red and shut down. They're not open on the 29th or 30th, or even 31st. Can we still get it?
Well, it's coming out of Texas, so you got to understand that.
Yeah, so that's a concern of mine, is waiting that late in the game, is if they're closed and we can't get a hold of somebody, do we just have to approve it and get a purchase order for it?
well, don't forget, Mark Crystal's probably on vacation that week, and he
Well,
does that.
Unless we do some repairs to it and put it in the auction. We do well on our auctions.
I mean, when it comes down to it, yes, it just needs to be ordered before the end of the year.
Okay.
So,
All right.
create a purchase order, and shouldn't be that complex. You can even, whoever we're dealing with, we can, make the contact and say, okay, look, we're gonna do our research still, And we're gonna pull the trigger on this date if we're ready to go. So I can't imagine that would be a time-consuming process.
No, that makes sense. I mean, if they want a $72,000 purchase from us as a town, they're going to be ready to shoot over that invoice that night if we asked for it, on the
Right.
20th. So I agree with you on that.
That's my thought, yeah.
Mark Crystal's still on. Mark Crystal, is there somebody else that can do this for you? Because I think he's on vacation that week. I'm not sure. Oh, there he is. Mark?
I'm here, Diane. Yeah, if it's something we need to get done, Diane, I'll get it done. Don't worry about that. All
You're
right.
vaca-
All right. So if it's something we need to get done, I'll get it done.
Thank you.
So, yep, no problem.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, and then the last resolution we have, we have two more. We also have the zero turn lawnmowers. John Jay was on the call. Oh, there he is. He submitted the actual vehicle request form. Does anybody have any questions on that?
No questions. I just had a chance to talk with John Jay on it. He said the mowers we have needed some work. I mean, he can chime in if he wants to. The invoices we have that go back to October, the preliminary invoices, one of them runs 10 and change, the other lawnmower is 8,000 or so. They've got considerable mileage on them. We have an opportunity to make a little bit of money from the used ones. I hope we're able to get this resolution through tonight.
Yeah, they're a consumable item. It's something we just got to replace constantly.
And resolution 4 is the changing of the date to allow for us to get those last minute items in for that CARES Act funding. So we're changing the next date. We were going to meet on the 22nd. We're going to change it to the 29th to allow an extra week for our department heads because they've been scrambling again. Is that so? That'll help you, right, Brian Kraus?
Yes, thank you guys for, adjusting this quickly and making that modification. I appreciate that. And the department heads do, because they're.
Yeah, they do. I know. I've talked to
Lisa and Paul P are scrambling to get this all done.
Yeah, and we don't want to lose out on that funding if that's not put in time. So, okay, good. So we'll adjourn the work session, and then we have a few minutes before we'll go on to the regular meeting then.
All right.